in terms of how things used to be done and how they're going now with a lot of people self-publishing, I recently talked to someone who had a book that was published 10 years ago, and they want to self-publish it again now, but so much has changed, they want to completely rewrite it, but they want to have the same title and say second edition, but it's practically a new book. In terms of getting publicity, would you say it's a second edition, or are you saying you need to start all over and make a new title and this is a new book?
I would just keep on saying updated all the time. You know, that it's current and so forth and so on. It's going to have a new ISBN anyhow, because it's got new words inside, so it's going to have a new ISBN, even if it does have the same title. So yes, I would sing it to the hills that this is a newly revised, up-to-date, up-to-the-minute information about whatever the topic is.
I've got books, 5 books in print right now, but I've got a 6th book that I wrote that had such a horrible title, and I didn't have the rights to, I could fight and cry and email and everything, but I couldn't get the title changed, so people would look at it and say, do you have a book about? And of course that's what the book was about, but it didn't reflect in the title. So all the 5 books are selling very, 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 very well, like 750,000 on one, and foreign languages and everything. But this book went out of print right away, as I knew it would, after very hard work. And so I got the rights back, and I don't want to use that title. Yeah, I did. I didn't know I'd do that, but I did. I want to kind of use parts of it and just put out a new book and not use that title. So no problem, right?
Right, no problem whatsoever.
And I'm not going to go, I'm also thinking of not staying with my publisher, putting it out, this new book, myself. I have all the rights anyway. And so any information anybody has about publishing, you said, I have a big base, I have a good base, you know.
And that is to your advantage.
And that's, yeah, that's a great help. You know, they have a bulletin board, I have a mailing list. I never put anyone on my mailing list. They have to put themselves on.
Right.
So it's totally them, you know.
The only negative to that scenario that I would say is that you are used to having a publisher doing A, B, C, and D, whether you think they're doing a lot or not, they are. And so now you are going to have to do all of that. You're going to have to do the fulfillment of the sales. You're going to have to get it listed in the Bowker, for example. I mean, there's a lot of things that are involved with self-publishing that you have not dealt with previously. So if you don't give it to your current publisher, you might consider giving it to another traditional publisher. I mean, that's just...
Because they do all that
Or,
stuff.
or you could sell it off your website and take all the money.
Yeah.
Which is what I would recommend.
Depends what you want.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Depends what you want out of your book. There's also hybrid methods now. I mean, like there never were before. So there's ways to go.
Hybrid methods.
Meaning
see, that's what I'm
self-publishing
hearing.
You're combining a
Everybody.
whole, you know, there's no longer only POD or only self-publishing. There are ways that you can combine it all.
Yeah, that's what I like, the idea of selling it. So I'd actually get more than 8% or something of net.
Right, I'm just saying though that you have to do it. You don't have somebody doing it for you.
Yeah.
Kristen?
And our company actually has a self-publishing arm called Open Book Editions. So it's a partnership with iUniverse. So it's self-publishing, but then you get to be part of the Barrett Kohler community. So there's a benefit to that.
But also, don't I understand that for your particular segment of the publishing, that it has to be approved by Barrett Kohler?
To approve it, yeah, but it's not as, I mean, the subject areas, it's a lot wider than what we publish as a publisher. So so we do business, self-help, and current affairs books at Barrett Kohler, but through Open Book Editions, there's like a golfing book. Children's books, fiction, as long as it's, under the umbrella, very broadly creating a world that works for all.
Right.
It adheres to our mission. Then it adheres to the Barrett Kohler mission.
Right,
It's
yeah.
I have a quick question. Do you have any advice for marketing and PR when you're working with an ebook versus a printed book?
I haven't personally done an ebook, and so, you know, I about maybe 5, 6, 7 years ago, I decided that my brain could only hold so many names and numbers and addresses, and that so I haven't done any ebooks. Yes?
Do you do any social media yourself?
No, I do not do that. That's what I said. I'm much more of a traditional, you know, but then if they want to do, and they should do, the social media, either they're savvy enough themselves to do it, or I send them to somebody who can help them.
Or who do you work with or recommend?
Well, one of the persons is Steve O'Keefe, who is in Virginia, but he does a lot of podcasts and blogs and so forth. And he will either work with the author doing it, or he'll do it for the author.
Alice, can you say something about covers? Because that cover you showed us over the weekend, I just think that's the most spectacular one I've seen in ages. And
when I was teaching at Book Passage, I had to go to the bathroom, so I went by and I see down here on a shelf on its side are 2 copies of a book that I know very well because the author lives on my island, and it's called Feathers. And he, Tor Hansen, has just been nominated for the Samuel Johnson Nonfiction Award, as has Salman Rushdie. So I was very proud to see that there, and I took it, of course, to the bookseller at Book Passage. I said, "You need to know about this book. It shouldn't be." And it was in the travel section, which I don't quite understand why it was stashed there. This is a jacket that is so gorgeous, and, you know, jackets are so important. It was in hardcover, and now it's in paperback. Plain white cover with a black feather, top to bottom. It was embossed, slightly embossed on the hardcover. And then on the spine, it says F-E-A-T, and it wraps around the spine. It is just absolutely gorgeous. And when the BBC announced the nominees for this award, the only cover that they used to illustrate their award was that cover. I mean, it's just absolutely smashing. So yes, take a lot of time on that cover. Very important.
How early do you typically get involved with a publisher when you're doing a big project?
Yeah.
Sometimes, I mean, we try to get on as early as possible, but sometimes we get on after the jacket has already been decided, and you want to be giving input, because some jackets aren't going to read in the size. You want to say, well, how's that jacket going to read if it's a photo or a design when it's this big, or, you know, different ways? How early can you, or how can you try to help with those decisions that are really publicity? You're going to end up with that problem.
Yes, we are. And I consider myself very fortunate that if I don't have enough time to work on a book, then I just don't take that project, because I'm going to be too handicapped. I really love to work with a book way in advance, just as you people in a house would be able to work with a book.
How far in advance usually? Do you know?
Well, you know, I would like to know when their contract is signed. I may not be doing anything there, but as I said,
So
if
a
I
year
know...
ahead, 6 months?
A year ahead.
Because nowadays,
Yeah.
contracts happen faster.
Yes, I know they do, but, you know,
Mhm.
I'm
A
saying
year.
when the publisher has the contract, I would like to be involved, because then maybe I'm not going to do something today or tomorrow or even next week, but I know what the title is, I know what the topic is, I know something about the author, and so as things come through, I say, ooh, that would be good for that book, even though I'm going to really do something a month, 2 months later. Yes?
This is kind of something I'm sure you know, but for anybody here, if you are signing a contract or plan to with a publisher, you do be sure that you get final say, that your say is the final say on the cover. because I got really,
Don't publish.
I even got a letter, 8 years later, I got a letter from a gentleman saying, you should have named it, and that's what was on my original proposal, but I wasn't allowed to.
Well,
So
I hate to
it's
tell
so
you,
important.
Patricia, but you're not going to get that with some publisher. It's just,
Yeah.
that's the
Well,
way
it's
it is.
almost better not to publish with that publisher and just keep looking than to have them not give you final say. You don't sign a contract. I think it's horrible to see your work, go out of print or something because they couldn't understand what this title meant.
Yeah.
Or to see a title like I got on another one of my books that I fought and fought and fought and fought. And 8 years later, I'm still getting email. And the latest one suggests I use this title, which is the title I used on my proposal.
Well,
So
the only thing I could
it's
say
horrible. It was
is,
horrible.
years ago, one of the students in my classes had done a tea book, the afternoon tea and crumpets, with Crown. And she saw the cover, and she thought that the cover was very bad for her book. And I said, well, then write them a reasoned letter why that cover doesn't work. That cover is the traditional tea book, and hers was not a traditional tea book. And she wrote a very good letter, and yes, she did get the cover. Sometimes you're not going to be successful, but at least you want to give it the old
At least
college try.
50 emails, letters, and calls could not accomplish anything with that publisher's house.
Yes, Elaine?
Alice, I just wanted to thank you because I feel like I so resonated with so much of what you said about being a traditional publicist, and I think that the substance of what you said is so important. And yet I wonder what you think about us, traditional publicists, and what our roles and our lives look like, say, 10 years from now, 5 years.
Huh. I don't know. I can't even imagine what my own role is going to be when I, quote, can do what I want to do. I don't live in the corporate world. So, like that 10-city tour I did for the literary short story collection, I would have never thought I was going to do that. These things happen, and life comes along, and, if it's, well, look at Pinterest. What has happened with Pinterest this last year? Just that one social media, and it's going crazy. So I don't have a crystal ball. Sometimes I'd like to, but yes.
When you say that you're a traditional publicist, are you still approaching mostly print publications, or are you including the online versions of the traditional publications?
Absolutely.
Forbes
Yeah.
and Business Week? And
Yeah. But traditional, I'm saying I'm doing the old things, and
Right.
but as the
as the mediums change, you're still
as the
going-
media changes, I change. As the demands of the media change, I change.
But so
Yes.
your process is still galley,
Absolutely.
press kit. What do you think about press
Well,
kit?
press
Full
kits-
press kit versus press release? Because
Yeah.
I've been working with Cornell University, their in-house publicity department, and they do these little press flashes that they have so much success with. They've gotten their author on NPR and all the big broadcasts, but it's a really short, succinct email even, and he faxed me a whole
And that
bunch. And that's what's more successful right now.
And that is indeed how tradition changes.
Right.
So instead of doing the press kit, for example, if you have a 6x9 book and you want to have a press kit, at least I'm using flat rate priority mail these days. It's the easiest and safest and blah, blah, blah. Well, once I put a press kit in that envelope, then I can't use that envelope anymore. And so that doesn't work for me. My husband says that I do publicity by the origami approach because I can't stand seeing a stack of white paper and a stack of white paper. So yes, it takes more time, but I cascade them so they can see, oh, we've got a bio and we've got, you know.
You mean when you do
Yeah,
open
when I
folder?
do it.
We used to do it that way with different sizes.
Yeah, but now I do it by just folding the papers in the book, you know, and I don't have as much information as you say because we are talking in short sound bites these
And do you
days.
still feel it's valuable to send a whole press kit with your review copy mailing?
No,
or
I'm
just a
putting
press?
paper in.
No, but I mean, but multiple pieces in
Oh,
the
yeah.
book. So you're
Yeah.
still sending full bio.
Right,
full- 'cause I've
and
been
then, but I
convincing-
also say, you know, you can find this online, because some people like to have the piece of paper, and some people like to see it online.
And do you find your pitch is more in your written materials or more in the email when you let them know that it's coming, or you follow up to see if it's been there?
It depends on the situation and how much time I have.
See, I like the minutia.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, it's funny, because it's funny, Katie's question about what does it mean to be a traditional publicist?
When what?
Katie's question about what does it mean to be a traditional publicist, I think is a question that I kind of like grapple with too, but I think the new vision for me as a traditional publicist is that, you know, coming from Harvard and from the in-house where it was like factory, like you were constantly sort of moving these things out, I feel like, for me at least, part of what tradition means is getting almost like still enough to really be able to plan, kind of like what you're saying, like a campaign. So it's not like, I don't know, a week or 2 weeks or a month, but it's sort of like, okay, let's start all the way through long leads and reviews and sort of build a full cycle, and then weave in traditional social media and marketing as a part of that. And I feel like that's really where, as I think about my own mind, sort of what is my future now as an independent publicist, is how can I add value in a meaningful way through the life cycle, like the whole process, instead of just like, well, here's a press release, here's a blast fax, which I will never ever do. But just more thoughtful and more meaningful.
Maybe I
I
could
think
do it.
that there's a quote that I particularly like, Paul Bogarts, that Knopf said, this was way back in 2002, and he said that today what a publicist does is so much more than what we used to do, and that to get the same amount of attention we have to do so much more just because of the noise of our culture. And that is so, so true. I mean, what I used to do for a book was, you know, and now you just have to do so many more things. The traditional plus the social media plus this and plus that, you know. So